Hi, welcome back to the Distressed Princess. Boy, do I have a great one for you today. Just check out these DIYs. So this is a piece that I found on kirklands.com and it inspired me to make my own. This is a very large jar, much larger than the ones from Kirkland's that I got at Target a while ago for $6. You could definitely make this using one of the cylinder jars from the Dollar Tree as well. And this is a hula skirt, also from the Dollar Tree, that I've been using for well over a year now, taking bits off of it, using it as raffia. So what you're going to need to do is use each little bunch. It's in bunches of 3 or 4 strands in each little bunch, and you're going to need to cut 3 of those bunches at a time off of the hula skirt, and you're going to braid them together. To do the braiding, I used painter's tape to tape them down to my work table, and then I just braided them, and when I came to the end, I tied a knot. And in this project, I think it does better if you do sort of a looser braid. Don't tighten it too much. You want them kind of large. And I also realized that you could do it this way. You can braid it right on the hula skirt. Just tape the hula skirt down and braid your 3 bunches together. There's a knot on each end to keep the braids in place. And I made 10 of these braids. And I wanted there to be a finishing piece at the top and bottom to go around the braids. So I'm using some thicker jute twine that I had. I think the perfect thing would be the wired jute twine that you get at Dollar Tree. And I just measured it around my jar and cut the length, and you'll need 2 pieces. And then I took a few strands of the hula skirt and I taped it on one end of the jute twine. And then I'm going to wrap it around the jute twine to cover it. When I came to the end, I used another piece of tape to hold it together. If you hadn't noticed, I was wearing a new bracelet the day I made this video, and I bought it from a lady at an art festival over the weekend, and I just love it. It's one of those snap bracelets. It was inexpensive, and I just love it. But I wanted to mention it because I want you to support your local artist and just go to the local art shows and see what you can find. And back to the DIY, so I have 10 of the braids and 2 of the wrapped jute strings. Now it's time to apply them to the jar, and I just used hot glue, and I started with one of the wrapped jute strings. Then I started applying the braids, and at first I didn't think to cut the knots off because I thought, well, they would be at the back of the jar and they wouldn't be showing. I'd have that facing the wall or something, but just go ahead and cut those off. Those knots are just temporary, I think, just to hold the braids in place while you're working with it. But then when you go to apply it on the jar, go ahead and cut them off for a nicer look. So here's how it was looking after I got my braids all applied, except for the one knot that I didn't get cut off. But anywho, then I added the top wrapped jute string. And she was all done. I was so happy to have made this really pretty thing for just stuff I had already at my house. In this next one, I'm using 3 of the LED outdoor lights from the Dollar Tree and the nautical rope from the Dollar Tree. And this is so simple, but so pretty in the end. Just start by looping the nautical rope through the hanger on one of the lights and hot glue it into place. Then decide how long you want your light to hang, and this is going to be one of the shorter ones. So each light is going to hang from a different length of the rope. So I'm going to have 3 sizes, and this will be the shortest one. And then repeat the process with another light, but cut this rope a little bit longer. And then the same thing with the third light and cut its rope a little longer than the last one. I used an elastic hair tie from the Dollar Tree to hold the 3 ropes in place. Then I took some more of the nautical rope and I unraveled it so that I would have thinner pieces to work with for the detailing. I used a pretty long piece to start wrapping around that elastic hair tie, and I hot glued that into place. But the reason why I'm using a long piece is because I'm going to also make this a hanger. And all I did for the hanger was make a loop and hot glue it in place. I cut off the excess hair at the top of the ropes and cut off the tail of my hanger, and that was it. And for $4, I had such a cute hanging outdoor light set. In the next one, I'm going to use 4 of these Dollar Tree decorative shadow boxes to make a planter box. And I'm also going to use this Dollar Tree sign for the bottom of the box. The first thing you need to do is remove the hangers from each of the boxes and the stickers on the back. To make the box, I'm going to put the decorative sides facing inward so that the solid sides are facing outward, because that's going to be what we're going to paint. And I'm going to hold it all together using wood glue and hot glue. Now, you have to have some patience when you're working with wood glue and hot glue. It takes a little bit of time for it to set, so don't rush this. For the bottom of the box, using the wood sign, I just put the box on top of the sign, and then I traced out the box onto the sign, which I will cut out using a utility knife. These Dollar Tree signs really aren't that hard to cut. All you got to do is score them 3 or 4 times with a sharp utility knife, and they will snap apart. And then I used wood glue and the hot glue to attach the bottom of the box. Next, we're going to do some real construction work because I'm using joint compound. Now, you could use spackle or anything you feel like could fill those seams. I want the sides of this box to be seamless, which is going to seem funny because later on you're going to see just how distressed and old this box winds up looking. For me to say that I want it to look seamless now is kind of funny. I guess what I'm meaning is I don't want to be able to see where those boxes are put together. So I put a nice coat of that joint compound all around each side of the box. Now, joint compound takes longer to dry than spackle, so I had to wait quite a while and use my hairdryer a lot before I went on to sanding. And I only sanded just roughly. Now, the next thing I did could be a little confusing because it doesn't really show up too much in the end, but I was going for a chippy paint look, and I wanted this to be my first layer of paint. I wanted to paint brown first, so I'm using Waverly Truffle from Walmart, and I wanted this brown to show through, so I'm going to do this coat of brown first, and then I'm going to do a heavy coat of white. Now, I say a heavy coat of white paint because if you use a hairdryer on heavy white chalk paint, this is what you get. You get some natural chips, like that paint wants to separate. Now, the box is looking pretty old due to the rough joint compound job and the crackling of the paint with the hairdryer. Now I'm going to try to get the chippy look, and I'm using the clear packing tape to do this. Now, it didn't exactly go as planned. When I did this, it took the brown paint off as well. I was hoping the brown would show through. And I'm having a feeling that it's due to the joint compound I used that the paint just didn't stick to it very well. So the tape took both layers off. But, you know, you work with what you got. And I really liked the distressed look. So even though the brown didn't show through like I planned, I just went ahead and painted another little coat of white just so that it wasn't so distressed. It was a little more distressed than what I really would want. So anyhow, just roll with it. Make your project your own and just roll with the happy accidents because I promise in the end, this box turns out so cute. The next step in the planter box is to add some shiplap lines, and I'm using my black Sharpie. I just measured out, I like to start in the center of my project, well, close to the center anyway. So I measured out, I think it was 3 inches for the center, and then I did 2 inches between lines. And I just drew these lines on all 4 sides of the box. And as if this box wasn't distressed enough, I used a sanding block to distress some more around the edges. And this box winds up looking like it has been sitting in a barn for ages. Now that our planter box is all distressed and looking nice and old, let's plant something in it. I'm using these greenery, they're called ferns, but that doesn't look like any kind of fern to me. They came from Dollar Tree and I'm using 4 stems. They're pretty long and I kind of want a tree-like effect. So I kind of staggered them when I bunched them together like this. And then I cut off a good piece of their stems so that they didn't stand quite so tall. And then I'm going to use floral wire to attach them all together. And then I took my fake tree and I put it down in the center of my planter box and I piled floral foam all around it to make it nice and steady. And then I used some of that messy moss from the Dollar Tree to hide the floral foam and I hot glued it down. And then I thought, what would be the icing on the cake? What if this tree was lit up? So I'm using these string lights that have greenery on them from the Dollar Tree. The next DIY is inspired by this picture frame, also from Kirkland's, and I already had this picture frame from the Dollar Tree, although I had already used the glass out of it and the back was missing. I printed out a tile just online, just a free tile picture, and I'm going to paint my frame with one of these navy blues. I decided that the one called English Navy from Apple Barrel had more of that Mediterranean blue color that I was looking for, so that's the one that I'm using. I'm lightly brushing it onto my frame and I did about 3 layers. And then I cut my print down to size and put it in my frame. Now I had to make a back for my frame. You of course won't have to do that if you just go buy the whole picture frame from Dollar Tree, and yours will have glass where mine doesn't. And then I'm going to embellish it using these brads that I got on clearance at Michael's. There were black ones and kind of cream color ones in the pack, so I decided to use 4 of the cream color ones. I used my wire cutters to cut the metal pieces off the backs so that they will hot glue flush down onto the frame. I should have been wearing my finger protectors, or maybe I should have been wearing my finger protectors and using tweezers. That's a good idea. Save your fingers, use your finger protectors, and maybe grab some tweezers to help you maneuver these little pieces into place. This is a fun little DIY using this decorative little votive holder from the Dollar Tree. Using that same English Navy paint, which I know looks black on camera, but believe me, it's blue. I painted, the bottom, it looks kind of like half, a little less than half of this votive holder haphazardly in a line all around the bottom. Then once that was done, I wanted an ombre effect, so I used some white to try to blend in with the blue. Now the blue that was already on there didn't really blend with the white, so I added a little bit of blue with the white to get a lighter blue for the middle ombre color. I took that lighter blue color all the way up to the top of the votive holder, and I sort of flicked my paintbrush up around that flower design so that it just barely had little flecks of blue coming up around the edge. I left the very top part white, and this is how it turned out. The last thing I have for you today is using this vase that I got at a thrift store for $1. I'm using the paint, the acrylic paint that you get at the Dollar Tree, and I'm really kind of impressed with this paint. I wanted this vase to have a gloss effect. I didn't want it to be chalky, so I nixed the chalk paint on this one and went with this acrylic paint. And I had a plan in mind. I was going to paint this entire thing white, and then I was going to ombre some blue, but guess what? Once I got this white onto this vase and it dried, just one coat, one layer, it looked like blue denim. I loved it so much that I gave up my ombre idea, gave up that plan, and just left it as is. So I'm thinking if you come across any purple vases, this is what you'll have if you just put a little white paint on it. And here's a look at all 6 of the DIYs made so inexpensive, and they look high-end and for practically nothing. Thanks for watching my video today. If you liked it, I have another one lined up for you. Just click the link right here on this page and it'll take you to the next budget DIY. Thanks for watching. Bye.